Hey everyone, and welcome. I am super excited today because I am announcing a new series, and this is probably the most interesting thing by a long shot that I've done on this channel before. And here is what that is. We will be doing real and novel machine learning research on this channel as part of this new series, where we will start from absolute zero and set the end goal to be publishing a paper at a top machine learning conference. And I'm going to be documenting the whole process on this channel as well as collaborating with my subscribers. So if that's the type of thing you're interested in, make sure to subscribe. There are going to be a lot of videos coming up on this channel about this project, about this series where we're going from, I guess, zero to hero. Maybe that's a cheesy way to say it, but I guess that's what we're doing. So the goal of this video today to get us started is to tell you why I'm doing this, why I thought this would be a pretty cool idea. 2 is what I'm actually going to be researching. I do have a topic in mind. And 3, what you can expect from this series in terms of what I'll be talking about, scheduling and that sort of thing. So let's start on the topic of why. Why do I want to do this? And I have 2 primary reasons. The first is that this is essentially the series I always wanted to see on YouTube, but I've never been able to find anything similar. If there is something similar, let me know. Maybe I overlooked it. But I've always wondered when people are doing research and getting started, what's going through their head? How do they come up with all these ideas? How much effort does it take? How much time does it take? And how do they get to the end? Like, what's the real process look like? And I've never found a good, essentially, series documenting that. And I'm hoping that's what this will become. I'm hoping that this will become a great resource for my entire audience to learn essentially how you do this sort of thing. But not just that, because even though I've worked as a machine learning engineer for a little over 2 years, I worked at a startup and also at Google doing machine learning engineering and even a little bit of research at Google. And I also did research doing my undergrad. I've never actually submitted a paper to a conference myself, let alone gotten one published. So I'm hoping it will really be a good experience for me too, to learn this as I go. And because of that, I do think that this is going to be a somewhat realistic series as to what you can expect getting into research. Because, I do have a little bit of prior experience, but actually publishing a paper, this will be a first for me too. So combining those points 1 and 2, you guys learning, me learning, I want to learn together with you all, and I want this to be somewhat of a collaborative thing on my channel. I don't think there's any precedent for this, but I really think it would be neat, and I'm going to be doing a few things to make sure that this is somewhat collaborative if you want to collaborate, right? You don't have to be a part of this. You can absolutely just watch this and be like, oh, that's pretty cool, or that's not cool. But if you do want to take part of this, the first thing I'll be doing is I will be definitely reading through all the YouTube comments. If you write anything, you can be guaranteed that I'll read it as long as it's not like a year out maybe. I'll be looking through all the comments and responding to any that have interesting ideas or any feedback for me. I'll definitely be looking at that. The next thing I'll be doing is if I get any YouTube messages or anything, I'll be looking at those too and responding when I can. The third thing is I'll be live streaming. I'll be doing this live so that I can have a live back and forth with anyone that's interested in this. I don't have a schedule yet, but if that gets popular, that's certainly something I can set up. And the fourth thing is that I might be making a Discord. This one will depend on if there's enough interest. So if that is something you want and you do want to collaborate through Discord or give ideas or talk about the project with other people, definitely let me know in the comments, because that one will very much be dependent on whether or not there's enough interest in it. I don't want to make a Discord if there's only going to be like 5 people. So the next thing I want to touch on is what I will be researching. And if you made it this far in the video, maybe you're curious about this. The goal of the project will be to create some sort of model or some sort of structure that allows us to learn from text-based goals, or agents to learn from text-based goals and reinforcement learning problems. Let me break that down a bit. If you aren't familiar with reinforcement learning, luckily this channel has a lot of content on that. Pretty much everything you should need to know to get you started. I'll link some of those videos in the description. But to quickly summarize what reinforcement learning is it's essentially a type of learning or machine learning where you want to learn from a reward signal. Now, an example of that would be, take the game of chess. You're playing, right? You make all your moves, and at the end of the game, someone wins and someone loses, or sometimes you have a draw, which is pretty frequent too, I guess. But based on what the outcome is, you'll get some numeric reward, and you can specify what this is, and this is called a reward function. So maybe +1 if you win, 0 if you draw, and -1 if you lose. That would just be an example. And essentially, reinforcement learning algorithms allow you to learn everything from that alone. You don't need to know any special stuff about the rules, as long as you are given like what actions you can take and stuff, and what the board looks like. Just from that one reward at the very end of the process, you can learn everything and make an agent that can play chess at a level or a capacity much higher than a human. And that is how most rewards are normally specified. They're specified as like 1 or 10 or some numeric value, right? That's how all of reinforcement learning is. It's all built around that idea. But that can be a bit hard, right? Because if you have to hard code something like that, it might be simple for chess, but if you get into something like certain types of movement or other complicated things you want to do, specifying a reward can get to be pretty difficult. Now, there are other reasons I want to do this too, but this is one case where this research idea could have a big impact. We will essentially want to convert our text-based goal into some sort of numeric value based on the current situation of the game or the environment or what's going on. So to give an example, we can talk about robotics. Imagine you have some robotic arm. These sorts of things are used a lot in reinforcement learning for testing environments. And you have a bunch of different objects here on the table. I have like a book you can't see, but maybe you have like also a cube, and you want it to pick up the cube and rotate it in a certain way. Now you could specify that with a numeric reward function, but it might get a little bit tricky. Maybe you want to capture a bunch of different sorts of movements, and it's going to take a bit of time. It would be so much easier, right, if you can say, use your robotic arm to pick up the cube and then do a 90-degree twist or something like that. Now, I'm not sure we'll get to the point where we can do that sort of thing with this project, but I'm hoping we will at the very least get a good sort of theory built up or some sort of proof of concept, good enough to submit to a conference, of course. Now, if you're curious as to why I chose this project specifically, there are actually a myriad of reasons, and I will be talking about all of those in an upcoming video, so if that is something you're interested in, make sure to stay tuned for that. Finally, though, I want to let you know what you can expect from the series in terms of upload schedule and also how we'll be progressing and what sort of milestones I want to hit. Firstly, in terms of schedule, I won't have a strict upload schedule for this because it will really depend on where I am in the process and what I have to do, and also real life obligations as to how frequently I'll be able to upload. But you can expect roughly one video giving you guys updates roughly every few days to every few weeks. That being said, I will still be releasing all sorts of other content in the meantime, so if you enjoyed my other content, no need to worry, that will be staying. This won't be replacing it or anything. It will only be one more series that I'm adding on to the other content I do, though this might take a bit of a primary focus. So the next thing is the general structure for this and the milestones I want to hit. The first thing we'll be doing, and the first video after this at least, will be breaking down the problem specifically. I very briefly touched on that a second ago, but I have a lot more I want to talk about. I want to make sure the problem is well specified so that when we start doing the research, we don't have to go back and redo any little details about what the problem is or anything. I want it to be specified from the beginning and lay out our ideas very cleanly. Item number 2 will be the literature review. Before we dive too deep into research, we'll want to make sure that we know what is going on in the field of reinforcement learning, but also make sure we know if there's any prior work done on this specific thing or anything related. If there is, we'll want to know that when we're, doing ideating and brainstorming, and that leads perfectly into item number 3, which is brainstorming. Once we know what the background is and we're comfortable with it, we'll start brainstorming our own ideas, writing down possible architectures, possible training methods, and essentially mixing and matching things until we have something we're happy with. And once we do have something we're happy with, we'll move into item number 4, which is implementation. This is where the real coding comes in, and during this you can expect videos, maybe how I coded specific things or an overview of the architecture. This probably won't be too complicated. The coding for research tends to be not too complicated compared to, at least in comparison to lots of other like software engineering, but we'll see. And then number 5 will be experimentation results. Once we do the implementation, we are definitely going to need to run experiments. Even if we spend a bunch of time brainstorming and come up with the perfect ideas, we don't know if these things will actually work until we try them. So we'll need to run experiments, see if they're doing as we expected they're doing. And if not, item number 6 will be to go back to the brainstorming phase and essentially keep going through this until we have something that we're happy with, something that we feel is getting us results we can present to a conference and that really provides value to the field. Item number 7 is then writing the actual paper. Once we have something we're happy with, we can actually, sit our butts down and go and write line by line, all that stuff. I'm sure that will be very exciting, but hey, that's what this series is about. It's going from absolutely zero to the very end in every step along the way. So that includes writing the actual paper and maybe making some revisions. And then the final step will be to submit it to a conference. Now, we might need to redo this process a few times if we don't get accepted the first time, but we'll be submitting it, getting our review back, maybe making some revisions. I actually haven't done the process, so I don't know the details of it. I just know the rough outline. But either way, that's sort of how I see this going, and that's the vision I have for the future of this series. If that is something that sounds interesting to you, go hit that subscribe button, come join us. I really do appreciate every subscription. It's hard when you're a small channel. But anyways, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope to catch you in the next video.